Hello, hoteliers, and welcome back to another episode of M3 Minutes. I'm your hostess, Veronica Berman, and on this episode, we're looking at International Women's Day 2024. So join us on the couch.
Thank you for having me. I'm Sujata Devraj. I'm the Director of Development here at M3. I'm glad to be here.
So, Sujata, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. We're sitting down with other women leaders within M3, and you're one of them. And I know a lot of times I pass you in the hallway because we're in different departments. But tell me a little bit more about where your space is within M3, what you do, and kind of a little overview of what your daily life looks like.
Sure. We have an excellent team of people here that actually build great software, and most of what I do is essentially just give them an environment where they can really thrive and do well. And for the most part, I just stay out of their way. I would say.
That sounds like a lot of good leadership right there. I've always heard hire good talent and then let them lead the way.
Correct. I think part of leadership is having kind of building out a great team and then letting them do what they can do. And usually they do pretty well when you give them the opportunity and the environment to thrive, and they do.
Absolutely. How long have you been in your role?
So I have been at M3 in the last 6.5 years, and in this particular role, it's almost a little over 3 years.
Okay. And you still find challenges each day?
Yes, there are challenges, and I don't see them so much as challenges as much as opportunities to learn and get better at doing things. So it's not so much challenges, I would say.
That's true. Thank you. That's a great perspective.
Right.
Well, let's kind of get down to business on why we're here, which is International Women's Day. A lot of us in this space of technology have probably seen that change with more women entering this technology field. But let's reflect more on the theme for International Women's Day, which is inspiring inclusion. So what does that mean to you, and why is it important to you?
Right. So if you break it down, to me, if I just take those words apart and say, let's look at inclusion, all that means is essentially, giving people an environment where they can feel valued, they can feel empowered, and they feel respected, right? And to me, and the inspire is basically, again, it's really a call to action so that we can build those environments where people can thrive and do, particularly women, thrive and do well. And once how do you do that? You essentially, I guess, become aware of all the struggles that women go through, take certain steps, bring focus to their issues, give them opportunities to thrive. And why is this important? I think there are a number of studies that show the more diverse a team is, the more creative they are in solving problems. And they're able to, just because of the different backgrounds and so on. So they're able to solve problems better. And the studies have shown further that actually leads to financial, success for the company. So I think it's really important from that perspective as well. We are pretty diverse here at M3. I myself am Asian American, and my team has got a number of diverse members from different walks of life. And what I've noticed is when you give them when you include them, they automatically are very engaged and committed, and they're able to complete, and there's a great sense of community that inspires everyone, and they end up doing being a lot more productive as well. And, the world globally, if you look at it, it's so diverse. So if our workforce kind of reflects that, and even our customer base is pretty, diverse. So I think having our workforce kind of reflect that helps us in serving our customers better. So I think overall this is important to include diversity, diverse, viewpoints and diverse people in your organization.
Gotcha. Absolutely. Absolutely. So kind of going into your specifics of your field, while M3 is in the hospitality technology space, let's kind of focus a little bit more on your sector because
Right.
I'm marketing, You're a little bit different than me. So I'm very curious, especially from your experience coming into the tech industry. It's been a focal point for discussions on diversity and inclusion. So, what progress has been made in increasing the representation of women in tech, and what strategies can be implemented to inspire greater inclusion in this sector?
So I think over the years, the representation of women in the workforce has been increasing. But in the tech arena, I think it's about in the 20 percentile range. I know they're projecting it'll go to 30. That's not a lot.
Mhm.
There's not a lot of us in this arena. So I think technical companies, tech companies have realized that, and they have been trying to institute various things in their company, from policies to actually outreach into the community. And they've partnered with universities to see if they can attract more women into the workforce, in the technical workforce. And also, in addition, within the companies itself, they have instituted certain goals, diversity goals and so on, which they're trying to monitor and make sure that they're actually making progress on that. And also, they have lots of training and educational. We do a lot of that in M3 too, which is basically to educate people and about any kind of unconscious biases, or how do you effectively hire more women. How do you, there's just a number of things through the year that they do. And of course, they have all these policies in place about discrimination and so on and so forth, which they make sure that, periodically they just remind all the employees on it, which is pretty good. In addition to that, companies also are trying to include women, give them more recognition by including them in conferences and so on. Even I participated in one of these conferences not too long ago. And then also, they give them recognition within the company and so on. There's lots of mentoring. And then there's also, other women that network with fellow women in the company and so on. So there's a lot that happens here at M3, and it also happens in other technical companies. And I think studies have shown where you have more diversity, there's more. The workforce is happier and more productive.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. When you have a lot of new people bringing new ideas to the table,
Right.
that's what is really kind of unleashes that creative space, because
Correct.
people are bringing in their own new experiences and
Correct.
stories, but also where they've been in life.
Correct. I
You
agree.
were raised probably in a very different place where I was raised,
Correct.
and
I
also
agree.
a very different time. And so by being able to learn from, I think, all ages, I love learning
Right.
from people who are more tenured in life because they have experiences,
Correct.
but it also keeps me young when I'm learning from a younger generation
Right.
about, oh, what's hip on TikTok, or, whatever the kids say nowadays. So,
Correct. Especially, technology advances all the time.
mhm,
So even more so, you want all the different generations, learning about what's new, and also for the younger people to kind of respect where things came from, because a
mhm.
lot of the technologies have evolved from something. It started somewhere. So to respect that, and to respect the people that did that too. So you can learn all around, I think, overall.
Mhm. Absolutely. It's adaptability, right?
Correct. I agree.
I think it's kind of that old saying, the only thing consistent is change.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's true. That's
Perfect.
absolutely true. And
Perfect.
it's apropos. Yeah.
Education is often cited as a critical tool for empowering women and girls. How can we make education more inclusive and accessible?
Um, this topic is special to my heart. Education, especially in a lot of lot of different countries, education is a key for people to get out of poverty and
Mhm.
essentially do better for themselves in their lives. So, and in many countries, in many places around the world, it's a pretty patriarchal society in
Mhm.
which girls and women have no access, and even if they have access, they're not allowed to study. And so they literally are, stuck in this cycle of not being able to get out of their circumstances. They're pretty much there. So education is the key, and that's pretty evident in a lot of places.
Mm.
And access to education, and also the educators and the education system itself, if they support them in a number of ways. For example, the curriculum, what they teach, if it is it's inclusive, then people then join schools and stay there, because it's now talking to them. In addition to the curriculum, the other thing is also safe zones. In
Mm.
many places, you have schools in areas which are pretty unsafe, and so it keeps a lot of girls and women away from those schools.
Mhm.
So it's really critical and important that they have a safe zone where they can study. Additionally, I think, one of the biggest barriers for women and girls, and in general, for most people that can't, is the affordability. A lot
Mhm.
of schools are and colleges, and they're way too expensive for them. And so I think a lot of the schools now offer like scholarships and grants and subsidies, sort of to encourage more people to join. And additionally, I think they're also doing a lot of outreach into the community to kind of to get you know parents and also other people around engaged as well, so that more and more women can be attend schools, and kids can attend school essentially. um, the other thing is also, science, STEM, science,
Mhm.
math, and engineering, all of these things, it seems to sometimes scare people off. And so they're trying to, schools and colleges are making extra effort to make it not seem so hard,
Mm.
and it's not really, having being an engineer myself. But I think it just, they're trying to make it. They're reaching out to the community, and then they have all sorts of competitions and contests, and events and conferences where they actually introduce things to people so that it's easier for them to then engage and start really developing a liking for it and then pursuing it afterwards. So I think it's really, education is the key in my mind.
Absolutely, and
Mhm.
and that's a great point, it's making learning fun again, right? It's
Correct,
making
I
it a
agree.
place that's enjoyable and an environment
Correct,
where it's a safe space. At some point, we all have and probably will fail here and there, but
right.
making it okay to fail and then a place to learn and grow from that.
Correct. I agree. And usually, when it's fun, then people aren't so nervous about doing something, or don't hesitate. They want to
Right,
join in the fun.
right. Will you give me a little bit of background on your personal education and maybe your journey?
Sure. I always liked science and math, and I was good at it. So it would seem natural to take up engineering. And then I pursued engineering, and I actually uh, ended up doing my advanced master's degree in computer science and computer
Mm.
engineering. And then subsequently, I started working in a technical company, and then I kept going. I was a coder. I coded. I, I did a lot of coding, and then along the way, I moved more into leadership because I realized that one of the things I did was present the technical to non-technical audiences. I had to stand up and speak about it, and that kind of led into more and more of the leadership role, and subsequently now I do a lot more leading than coding these days. So that's where I'm at.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
Okay, okay. And so that seems like it was all, your journey from kind of childhood into early adulthood and now into the working world.
Right, exactly. I know it sort of is compressed, but yeah, but it takes a lot of effort and dedication and kind of focus to get
Mhm.
where I am. And I think along the way, of course, all of us face challenges. But the thing is, you have to keep trying to get past it, so that, especially if you have some goal. And I always had a goal of
Mm.
doing what I'm doing currently, and so I just kept at it. And of course, a lot has changed over the years. I think it was a little harder earlier to do certain things, and we all face it as women and so on. But it's a lot has changed subsequently, and also I think every person themselves has to make a concerted effort to make a change.
Mhm.
Also, not just wait for someone to do the change. Right, part of our job is also to kind of be the change we want, right? And so that's some of what so it's been an interesting journey, and hopefully it's going to keep being interesting for the next several years as well.
Well, that right there, what a powerful statement. Be the change. That's something where I've heard that, to kind of elaborate on that a little more, I think it's be the change you wanna see in the world,
Correct, I
a
agree.
and so it starts kind of with you and from within,
Correct.
and so when we're thinking about looking ahead, I'd love to know what roles can individuals, communities, and institutions play in inspiring greater inclusion for women and promoting a more equitable and diverse society?
I think for all of us, I think the most important thing is to understand, what is it that women face. The more we understand the challenges and what women face, and what's the barrier to going, and what's the barriers, and how can they get beyond it, right? So and then become a champion for you know women's rights, and advocate for change, where there are problems. And as communities, I think, communities are sort of an extension of the individual person. So
Mm,
I think it ends up, the more voices that are raised, and the more people that engage, the more change that can happen,
mhm,
because I think the communities can make a difference. And a lot of it is, they can, for laws, and also, for example, just rights they can fight for as a group. I think
mm,
it does help to hear more people speaking up on issues. And I think also, I think communities have a way of actually, encouraging change, and encouraging women, role models, for example. I feel like, I talked about being the change. I think in some respects, just people, especially women, seeing other women leaders, or if they see
mm,
other people succeed, and I think that it makes it for them easier to think of themselves in that role in the future, right? So role models, mentoring, being there and listening and hearing, and sometimes just recognizing people, also. Including them in conversations, and including them in decisions.
mhm.
So there's a whole range of things this community can do. Public recognition always helps. So that's from the community, and that kind of helps. And I think the other thing is policy changes sometimes. Speaking up and making, and voting on things. For example, just participating as a community helps.
Absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely, and I love that you really kinda capitalize on that is empowering one another as women and being there to support
Correct.
one another.
Correct. And that's important, because when you have a community of your own, if, as you say, it could be people similar to you, or people that are actually, supporting you, that makes all the difference sometimes. And it makes your ability to go forward a little less challenging or daunting, if you
Mhm.
will. You don't think of it as being such a barrier or thing. You're seeing friendly faces around you. So it does help.
Yes,
So I
and
think
not
so.
only the women supporting women, but the men who are allies as well.
Absolutely. And I think nothing is possible if men aren't allies to this as well. I
Mhm,
think it's more than just the women. It's the men. It's the it's everybody around you. And it's
mhm.
the women supporting other women, just to show a little solidarity. And having the men there is even better. Because they basically will, hopefully, as a community, they can step in and support their women.
Right, wonderful. Well, these have all been wonderful, pieces of just insight into kind of your perspective, and we
Sure.
truly appreciate your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It's wonderful to have had a chance to talk about women and women's issues, and all very dear to me. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Right, and Women's History Month is not just in March, but, it's something that we look on every year, so
Correct. And it should be ongoing.
Yes,
Every day should be
throughout the
Women's
year.
History.
That's what I meant. Throughout the year, not every year.
Doesn't
Excuse me. Throughout the year, but
throughout the year, for
especially,
sure.
you know, what a great hashtag and mantra that we can take throughout the year: inspiring inclusion.
Correct. And I think it is so critical that we have those keywords, inspire and inclusion, because that's what it is. That's what will make the difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Love
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of M3 Minutes. Today we celebrated International Women's Day, and it's something we plan to continue to do all year long. If you like this episode, make sure to head on back to that lobby and hit that subscribe button. Until next time, hoteliers.